People love running to First Peter 2 like it means the church replaced Israel. You see, it's the chosen generation. We're the royal priesthood, the holy nation, the peculiar people, and that means the church replaced Israel, just case closed. No, that's not what Kepha is doing. And that's what happens when people read one passage with no covenant memory, no Torah backbone, and no idea where the language actually came from. Because Kepha didn't invent that language. He's pulling straight from Torah and the prophets. Exodus 19, Hosea, Isaiah. That language already belonged to Yahuwah's covenant structure long before 1 Peter was ever written. So the first thing that needs to end is this stupid idea that Kepha suddenly created a brand new people disconnected from everything that came before. He didn't. He's not preaching replacement. He's reactivating covenant identity language and applying it to those being brought near through Yahusha. That's very different. And the fact that people can't tell the difference shows how badly they've been trained to read and understand Scripture. Because modern Christianity reads covenant language like entitlement language. Like it's a badge or status or we're special now language. That's not how Kepha's using it. He's using priesthood language. And priesthood language isn't comfort language, it's responsibility language. It's holiness language, obligation language. It's nearness with boundaries and access with demands. So when Kepha says you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for possession, he's not saying congratulations, the church replaced Israel, and now you get the promises without the structure. He's saying you're being called into the same covenant identity, the same priesthood logic, the same holiness demand, and the same responsibility before Yahuwah that was already established in the covenant. That's why the architecture matters. Because if you read 1 Peter 2 through the layers, then the passages tighten immediately. So let's do that now, starting with the temple layer. Because Kepha's writing in temple language. Living stones, spiritual house, holy priesthood, acceptable offerings. That's not random metaphor. He's framing the people as a priestly structure being built into ordered approach before Yahuwah through Yahusha. That means this isn't replacement, it's temple restoration language. The people are being organized in sacred space logic. And that alone should already expose how shallow the church reading is. Because churches love quoting royal priesthood while living like outer court pagans. No order, no holiness, no boundaries, no fear, no priestly responsibility, just title without structure. Kepha isn't giving you a slogan, he's placing you inside temple responsibility. Now let's move to the Modim layer. This is covenant identity language being activated in a people brought through threshold and separation, which means this isn't detached from covenant time either. The whole flow is brought near, built together, called out of darkness into light. That's covenant movement. That's Passover logic, unleavened bread logic, and first fruits logic. Deliverance, separation, and emergence into visible covenant identity. Kepha isn't writing abstract church theology, he's writing covenant formation language. The Sinai covenant lawsuit layer. This matters too because the whole letter is written to scattered people under pressure. And what does Kepha do? He doesn't tell them, don't worry, the law is gone and now you're just spiritually chosen. No. He gives them covenant identity under pressure. Why? Because identity has to hold during the lawsuit. If you're called holy, you're expected to live holy. If you're called priesthood, you're expected to function as priesthood. If you're called possession, you're expected to belong. So again, this isn't replacement, it's covenant accountability language. Now the Eden Ark layer. So here you get the darkness to light movement. And that matters because this is exile to restoration language. It's called out of darkness into marvelous light, not random salvation cliche. It's restoration movement, which means the people Keppah is addressing are being positioned inside the larger story of return. And return doesn't mean old covenant erased, new religion invented, and every prior definition canceled. It means people are being brought back into structure, or into the structure that Yahuwah already established. The Jubilee layer. So here, Keppah says, once you were not a people, but now you are a people of Elohim. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. That's Hosea language. And Hosea isn't about replacement theology. It's about judgment, estrangement, and mercy-driven restoration. That's all Jubilee logic. It's not we replaced them, but what was estranged is being restored through covenant mercy. Again, people flatten this because they don't know the source text. Now let's move to the pulse and axis layers, because the main axis here is obvious. It's axis 12, discipleship, bearing the stake, and remnant, because Keppah is drawing a line around identity under pressure. Who are you? What are you being called to be? How do you live when scattered? How do you remain holy while surrounded by corruption? That's remnant language. And secondarily, Axis 2, Torah as the standard, because the covenant identity he's invoking only makes sense if Torah still defines the structure. Otherwise, the language becomes meaningless decoration. And that's exactly what Christianity turned it into, decoration. They love chosen people, royal priesthood, and holy nation, but they hate obedience, holiness, boundaries, covenant order, and priesthood responsibility. So they want the title without the calling, and that's the fraud. And also a real problem, because the problem isn't that Keppah was unclear. The problem is that people come to 1 Peter 2 already infected with replacement theology and church supremacy, so they read the passage like a corporate transfer announcement. It's not. It's a covenant summons. If you're being called priesthood, then act like priesthood. If you're being called holy nation, then live holy. If you're being called a people for possession, then stop living like you belong to the world. And that's what Keppah's doing. He's not canceling Israel. He's not creating a disconnected church identity. And he's not erasing Torah categories. What he's doing is he's calling people into covenant identity Yahuwah already defined, now made visible through Yahusha. And that's the passage. And if you're reading 1 Peter 2, or if you're reading of 1 Peter 2, gives people status without structure, identity without obedience, priesthood without holiness, and chosenness without covenant responsibility, then your reading's broken. And that's exactly what most of Christianity did with it. So no, 1 Peter 2 doesn't prove the church replaced Israel. It proves most Christians have no idea how to read covenant language, because they hear priesthood and think privilege when Keppah meant responsibility. They hear chosen and think superiority when Keppah meant obligation. They hear holy nation and think replacement when Keppah meant covenant identity under pressure. And that's why this passage gets butchered, and that's why the architecture matters. Because once you see the structure, the fraud becomes obvious